Welcome back to another episode on the podcast. Today, we're going to talk about the emotional experience. We're going to talk about regulating. We're going to talk about what to do with the emotions and non attachment, because one of the biggest lessons in life is to practice non attachment and what that even means. So, I feel like in my personal journey as a Taurus, the biggest lesson for a Taurus in general is to practice non-attachment, right? Each sign has major lessons. Like Scorpio, the biggest lesson in life is trust, right? Um, so every sign has a shadow, every sign has a higher aspect, a light, and one of the biggest lessons, I think, for all of us, really, because we all have everything within us, right? When we say I'm a Taurus or I'm a Scorpio or I'm a Pisces or I'm a Capricorn, everybody has that energy somewhere in their chart. It's just a matter of how prominent it is, where it is, what area of life it's ruling over, and if there's anything in those places. So when we talk about any sort of energy, be it human design, astrology, whatever, we all have everything. We are all duality. We all have high expressions. We all have low expressions. We all have lightness. We all have darkness. And if you are looking through the lens of, yoga, of ancient practices and spirituality, and, if you believe in reincarnation, and even if you don't believe in reincarnation, right, the purpose is to sort of reach this place of enlightenment, whether you consider that enlightenment in the yogic, philosophy sort of way where you reach this point of, just kind of transcending the material world, or whether you perceive it as heaven. We're going to a place where we can transcend the material, where we can transcend the egoic senses sort of life that we experience here. Now, I do believe that we have come on Earth at this time in these 3D, meat suits to experience certain things. And those things are emotions. Those things are your senses. And that is a big part of the experience. And we're also called to move past them. And so for most of my life, I have been incredibly emotional. And I think that one of the biggest lessons is that our emotions in themselves are not wrong. There's nothing wrong with being emotional. Actually, I've come to a point in my life where I've witnessed and I accept that my emotions are actually like my superpower. They're like one of the most beautiful parts of me. But it's taken years of discernment and regulating and figuring out what that means and how we can use our emotions and not let ourselves be overtaken by our emotions. And so it's been a lifelong journey to, I don't want to say control the emotions, but to not let my emotions control me. For most of my life, it has been the emotions are dictating and controlling everything. And when we allow our senses to run the show, so taste, touch, hearing, smelling, our physical senses, when they run the show, we are grasping and grabbing these little quick dopamine hits, right? So if you're in an emotional experience and you're not taught to regulate, you're not taught how to move through it, we kind of suppress it, we reject it a little bit, we push against it, and then we're chasing these dopamine hits to make ourselves feel better. Again, I could go through my whole chart and I've learned that yes, the languaging of astrology, the languaging of human design is so helpful in awareness, but we have to then embody and we have to come into ourselves and we have to kind of move past that. So I love things. I will say that. Taurus sun, Leo moon, Leo rising. I love things. I love luxury. I'm what they would call bougie. Like I really, really enjoy dining experiences. When I travel, I really like to travel in luxury and sort of like that. I love that energy. And for a long time, I felt a lot of shame for feeling that. And again, it's that dual where half of me is like, okay, I'm in this 3D, I'm in this experience. I think I should fully lean into it. And then the other half of me is like, but we want to be deeply spiritual. And this is the duality of life, right? It's all energy. And so I think that's what a lot of manifestation coaches and teachers teach us, is that the want, the desire, the money, it's not evil, it's not bad, right? It's a part of this life. And when we get to a point of actual alignment, when we get to a point of a certain frequency, when we're calling in the experiences, it's not about like the money, it's about more the feeling. And so when we can get to that place, things are just going to be provided for us, right? We're just going to be abundant because we have the feeling of what we want, and the rest kind of follows in line with that. But I will be completely honest. Like I said, I love things, and it is those quick dopamine hits. Like okay, my biggest thing is like bags. I don't know why. I just love bags. And so it's like I will see something, and especially when I'm in an emotional experience, I'll see something and I'm like, oh, I have to have that thing right now. And this is like marketing, right? Like marketing, it works on our emotions, right? So that we're like, and we have to have the thing now. Like there's a sale. Oh my gosh. And what human design has taught me too, with leaning into my emotional authority, is that if something needs an answer right now, like if I have to do something right now, it's not for me. And so, yes, there are certain things that are time sensitive. And also, if I'm not ready for it, whatever I do believe, I have faith and trust that whatever's meant for me will find me. And so like leaning into that. But when it comes to our emotions, we are so disconnected from source. We are so disconnected from regulation, like techniques and tools. We're not raised at a time where we're just like one with nature, where we're out there picking berries and, hunting and just kind of like really doing things with our hands and being in nature, and in like having these practices that are passed down, through generation and generation. We're at a time where the modern world and technology and everything is so beautiful, but we're at a time where we're so far removed from these traditions, from these rituals that really, really support our nervous system, right? We're not raised outside in the dirt. I mean, some of us were, right? I think we're from a generation where it was like, be outside and come inside when it's dark kind of thing. But I know like my kids, that's not the vibe in our house, and not because I'm not very much an advocate of like getting outside. Like we go outside as often as we can, but the times are different. So we're so far removed from the things that keep us regulated, from nature, from good food, from moving our body. I studied the blue zones. So I studied integrative nutrition. And part of that study was the blue zones, right? So there's believe it's 7 areas that have the highest centurions. So basically people who live over 100, and they've really studied like what these people do for longevity, how they're so healthy. And, some of these cultures, they smoke, they drink. So it's not those things, right? It is the fact that they move their body. They're social. They have community, right? When they eat, they're eating they're eating real food. This is why the Mediterranean diet is so popular, because it's not so much like what they're eating, it's like how they're eating it. It's all natural, it's all real. Like there's a certain way that we can consume food. Like there's a reason why bread and olive oil is a good mixture, right? There are certain things that work well together. And so, yeah, so they studied these people, and they have all of the elements of longevity. And when you think about like our modern life, I'll say Western modern life, we are so disconnected. We're in this like lone wolf mentality, which is completely changing, by the way, in this whole shift. 2027, age of Aquarius, everything, it's completely changing. But we're in this lone wolf mentality. We're so isolated from people. We're eating food that is keeping us sick and keeping us disconnected. We're rarely in nature, right? We're in these like towers and buildings, and especially if you live in a city, right? Like the concrete jungle, it's like there's no actual nature around us. We're not really moving our body. Think about like corporate America. We're sitting from 9 to 5 at a desk. We're not moving. Our body is not meant to be in, like, even you can't see on the video, but I'm sitting cross-legged now. Like maybe you go into an office these days and people are sitting cross-legged with like interesting chairs that really support or like move around. I don't know. I haven't been in corporate in like 7 years. I don't know. But there are certain things that we're lacking. And I believe a big part of that is understanding how to work with and regulate our nervous system. Because again, the emotions themselves are not bad. The emotions are not bad. There's nothing wrong with our emotions, but we're not taught what to do with them. Like for so much of my life, I was told I was too sensitive, I was too emotional, I was too quiet, I quit too many things, like I was too whatever. And I was reflecting on things. I feel like my story that I'm working through is that specifically around men, I'm not enough. And then around women, I'm too much. So it's sort of this weird thing where it's like, okay, but I can only be myself and trust that the right people are going to come in. And that's happened time and time again in my life where, the right people will circle and orbit and come into your life. And um, so, yeah, going back to emotions, like we're just not taught. So I'm not too much of anything. I'm not too little of anything. Like I'm perfect as I am. But because I've never been taught how to regulate, I've perceived my emotions as being too sensitive, too weak, too much. But it's not, right? It's not. It is what it is. And they're beautiful. And if I had learned how to regulate when I was younger, I would have had a different experience with my emotions. But instead, I shoved them down. I used to like pride myself of like being with friends with like the guys and like I would never cry. And I was like, such a strong, and I am, right? But I've learned that my femininity, my emotions, my sensitivity, my empathy, those are actually strengths. And they're such a beautiful part of me. And I've allowed myself to be witnessed and be in that experience. I've also accepted my quietness. I've gotten this so much in my life. You're too quiet. You're so quiet. And yes, part of it is trauma. And part of it is like, I like to learn people. I like to observe people. I like to figure things out. And it allows me then when I do engage, I engage with intention. I engage in a deep way because I've kind of like watched and I don't get me wrong, I'm a Leo moon and a Leo rising. So when I see somebody who's just like the life of the party, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I'm like kind of jealous that you can go out and just be like that. But although maybe there's a part of me that wants to embody that, that is not who I am in this current experience. And it's not to say that I don't know what the word is. It's not to say that I'm not that or I don't have qualities of that because in the right places with the right people, I do feel that Leo part of me coming out and that's beautiful. So, human design and astrology, but human design teaches us to get out of the head and into the body. And from the moment human design came into my orbit, I absolutely loved that teaching because it teaches us how to connect with our body. Whatever type you are in human design, whether it resonates or not, I believe that message of coming into the body and out of the mind is so powerful. And I started my yoga teacher training. And so, a core piece of the beginning of this is all yoga philosophy and the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedas, the Upanishads, like things that I've learned in the past. It's really cool to like revisit it and kind of like with fresh eyes and coming from that place. But the Bhagavad Gita, I actually don't have it in front of me. I should have had it in front of me, but it's got this really beautiful chapter in there. It's chapter 6, but it really talks about the practice of yoga, of meditation, of taking of kind of controlling the senses. So he goes through this whole way that we can control the senses, that we need to be disciplined. We need to practice non-attachment, right? Like detachment. And that's how we can kind of control our senses and things like that. And Arjuna, who is sort of like the warrior in this story, is like, okay, but it feels like controlling the senses is like trying to control the wind, right? Or controlling the mind is like trying to control the wind. And Krishna says, yes, you're right. Like it is hard. But if you live your life with intention, if you live your life in a way that is aligned with your values, that you're trying to do the best that you can, like you're not going to be destroyed, right? You're going to come back in your next life with in a family or in an environment that's going to support your enlightenment journey. And so it's really like, because like when I was first reading it, it's like it tells you the path. And also, yes, it is so hard. Like I said, when I see like a really nice purse, or I go out and there's a meal, or I'm sitting there and I'm not really hungry, but maybe there's like a dessert or like something that's a really appealing. It's really hard to say no. And especially in our modern world where it's like you go to the grocery store and just like there's just everywhere, there's messages of like things to eat, or we're being pulled in all these distracted. I'll say that We're being distracted by all these things. And because we don't have that foundation of the basics of whether it's spirituality, whether it's nature, whether it's whatever that will anchor you in, then we're just pulled in all these different directions. And it's really hard to control our senses. Like we are information overload. Like sometimes I sit here like, and I bounce from reading one thing to the next. I'm trying to learn this and I want to read this. And I'm like, I want to know all the things. Like you can see all of my books. If you're watching on YouTube, you see all my books. And this is not even half of the books. Like there's a whole bookshelf there. There's a whole bookshelf there. Like there's so much that I want to know. And so our mind is just so busy. It's information overload. And then we go on social media, especially with kids these days. We go on social media and it's like scrolling, scrolling, scrolling. There's so much information. We're just so overloaded with information. And so it's so important for us to find space, to be disciplined enough to carve out time in our day to come into ourselves, to whether it's going outside for a walk, whether it's literally hugging a tree, like put your arms around a fucking tree and like see how you feel. I don't know. But we have to like find ways to ground ourselves in, to regulate our nervous system. Like I don't know the exact statistic, but like when you put your feet, like your bare feet on earth, like earth is literally here to like heal us and charge us. Whether it's using Healy, like I sit at night every single night with the microcurrents on my Healy, and I'm literally recharging my cells. So being intentional, being disciplined. And the day that this podcast episode comes out, so Thursday, Venus is moving into Virgo. And I'm actually really excited for this because Venus is going to square Uranus on Monday, but before that, or the whole Venus and Virgo cycle, we'll say, Venus is our values, right? Yes, Venus is love and beauty and the material and self-worth and resources, but Venus is our values. Virgo is our health, it's our day-to-day routines, and it's our habits. Venus isn't fully expressed in Virgo because Venus rules both Libra and Taurus, and it's exalted in Pisces. So Venus is not fully expressed in Virgo, but I love Venus in Virgo because the lessons that it teaches us is to really look around our life and be so honest. Like, what are your goals? What do you value? What do you want to achieve in your life? Especially because when Venus moves into Virgo, she's going to be conjunct the South Node. Now, this is where we find comfort. This is the past. This is things that we lean to when we're feeling uncomfortable. This is things that are kind of keeping us in the past and holding us back from moving forward. So we're really going to be given this opportunity to really honestly look around your life and what in your day is not supporting what you want to move to, right? In manifestation, we talk so much around like, be the version of yourself that you know that you are, right? Like act as if, fake it till you make it kind of energy. Because whatever it is that you're wanting to achieve, it's not so much the thing, right? Like it's not so much like the having millions in your bank account, which yes, I think that money can buy you freedom in that sense. Like you're free to do and whatever. But I know, a lot of people who have incredible wealth, if they're not really doing the work, like are they happy? And so, but it's like, okay, so if you want to have millions of dollars in your bank account, like what does that feel like? And how can you embrace that version of yourself today? And when you look around, like what are you doing in your day to day that actually will call that in? Because, a huge portion of the manifestation work is energetic. It is the work. It's coming inside. But the action piece is so important. And so I have felt like over the course of my journey in my life that, yes, I've done a lot of the inner work. And because I haven't done so much the action pieces that I know will move the needle, I get stuck in the work. And I think a lot of us are in that place where it's like, okay, I've been doing the work for XYZ years. I've been doing everything that, all the teachers and coaches and everybody says is supposed to work. And yet I'm stuck. But it's like, honestly, look around your life and what habits, what are you doing in your day to day that is supporting the old version of you and not the future version of you, the current version of you? Because if we really look around, be it your space, be it your bank account, be it your friends, like our environment, what we're surrounding ourselves with. This is why I truly believe like when people choose to put themselves in rooms with highly successful people or people in the industry. I just heard the statistic or the number that to get an hour on the phone with Tony Robbins is like $1 million. And they're not doing that because he has some information that they don't have. They're doing that because they want to be in his energy. They want to be in that field, that frequency. And when you do that more and more, that's what elevates you. So when I look at my current experience and my life and all those things, in all honesty, I feel like I've used the word stuck so many times because I'm kind of in doing the same things. I'm doing the inner work, but my external hasn't really changed that much in the sense of who I'm hanging out with is kind of the same. I'm kind of still in that like lone wolf kind of mentality, and just in the way that like I believe that when we come on this journey, when we begin to heal, when we begin to do the work, there is a phase where we tend to lose a lot of our friends, a lot of our relationships, because not that we're better than them or anything, there's no judgment involved in that, but sometimes when we're going to a certain frequency in a certain space, there are people that are just not going to come with us, right? Think about like the new earth. They say the new earth is already happening. It's on a frequency level. And so what frequency are you at? People who are not there doesn't mean it's good or bad, but people who are not in the same frequency as you are not going to come with you, and vice versa. Maybe you're not on the same frequency as other people and they just kind of leave your life. And so there's this phase of the journey where we tend to lose a lot of friendships, relationships, whatever. And it's hard in the moment, right? And this is again where this practicing non-attachment comes in, but it's hard in the moment, but in the big picture, right? It creates the space for you then to fill it with other people. And so I feel like where I am in my journey now is more of the awareness of that. And now I'm seeking out how I can fill that space with people who are more aligned, who are on the same journey as me, who, being in proximity to people who are similar or a step or two ahead or whatever, that are very like-minded and similar-minded. And often I find that online, but it's a practice of finding it in person now. And especially with the yoga teacher training, being now in yoga studios and making connections in that way, I feel really excited about that. So with all of that human design, right, it's like getting out of the mind, it's getting into the body, whether you use practices like human design or astrology. Again, I believe Venus and Virgo is really going to help us take an honest assessment of what's in our life, what's supporting us. July 13th, I'm doing a 7-day program or challenge called Attune, and it's really just 7 days to understand the current astrology, how it layers on your chart, nervous system regulation. So it's going to be 7 days, 7 audio drops, 7 somatic practices, and 1 live call where we're really going to go over the current astrology. You're able to ask questions, all the things. So join us. I will leave the link in the show notes down below. You can just click on there, and it's going to start again July 13th. It's going to be really good. Because I also, with Venus and Virgo, I mean, the whole astrology of this month, guys, is like, it's crazy, but it's so powerful to be doing this work. I've been talking about the astrology for like months, and I was like, there's somebody that I come into contact with on a daily basis, and I'm always talking about the astrology. And the other day I was trying to do something by myself, and this person was like, hey, can I help you? And I was like, no, I got it, thank you. And they looked at me and they're like, Rochelle, it's July, we're not messing around this month, let me help you. I was like, okay, noted, touche. And so Mercury is in retrograde. Mercury will be in retrograde until the 23rd, I believe. I actually don't have my little calendar in front of me. It's the 23rd or the 29th. 23rd, I think. The 29th is the full moon. So I believe it's the 23rd. This Sunday, the 12th, we have our Kazemi. So the sun and Mercury are meeting in the sky at the same point where we're going to get a little bit of clarity. But Mercury retrograde is also showing us our emotional patterns and habits, and it's allowing us to face them and to create awareness, right? So another part that, the Bhagavad Gita talks about, and I think I brushed on it. I think I mentioned it in that chapter where he's telling you how to regulate, how to control the senses, how to like be more powerful than that. at the end of it, it's literally, I think the message of that is like, you can't get it wrong. And I think this is where a lot of us get trapped. We get stuck in our head of like, I'm not where I should be. We compare to every other person. And I was on a call recently and with Reagan Hillier, if you're familiar with her, she's kind of like the manifestation queen. And, like she talks about, it's like, if you want to manifest a career, a dream life, whatever, if you're comparing and you're trying to do what everybody else does, it's like, that's not it. You being you, like she was talking about niching, right? And we all want to fit into a box, but it's like, no, you are the niche. Like I am the niche. There is no one out there in human design astrology that is quite like me. There is no one out there in human design. Like if you do human design and astrology, if you do holistic health, if you do Reiki, if you do whatever, own it. There's no one out there that does it like you. And when you own that, and when you stop trying to fit into boxes or fit into spaces or trying to dim yourself to like look a certain way or be a certain way, like when you own your space, that's when the right people will align to you. So there is this framework that I've come up with. I've officially put a name to it, but there's this framework that I've come up with that I use in my coaching containers, that I use in Holistic Human Design Academy, that I just never quite had a word for. I never had like a step-by-step for, but I've come together with this. So we're talking about our emotions. We're talking about non-attachment. So how do we get there? How do we do it? So my framework is REER, REER. So the first one is regulate. We've been talking about this whole time. Regulating your emotions. This is the core foundation. Like if you think about a house, if your foundation is not strong, the rest of the house is going to crumble, right? So we need that solid, strong foundation of regulating our nervous system and whatever that looks like for you. So if you join Attune, the 7-day challenge, there's going to be a variety of somatic practices. We're going to do tapping. We're going to do breath work. We're going to do meditation. We're going to do movement. And I'm going to be offering you resources that you can try on your own, like whatever. We're going to find the practice that works for you. There is something that works for everybody. I personally love, I have it stacked too, but I love to journal. Journal has been my saving grace in my life. I love to journal. I love to meditate. I love to move my body. I love to do yoga, right? Breath work. I don't know. It's not that I don't love breath work. Breath work is always the one where I'm like 5 minutes in, I'm like, when is it going to end? Which probably means is the one that I need to do the most. But we're going to find what works for you. So regulate. Find a practice, find a tool that works for you. And that is the foundation. We will constantly come back to that because we have to know that we're safe to really do the work. If we're still in fight or flight, it's harder to do the rest of it. So really, really regulating. The second one is educate. Because as someone with an extremely busy mind, and I have been blessed to have so many type A people in my life, and the mind is so loud, right? So educate. We want to learn. We want to grow. We want to evolve. And so again, when you think about human design, when you think about the mind as being an outer authority, what you learn, what goes on in your mind is for other people. It's not for you to make decisions, but giving the mind sort of this is why I love human design too. Human design like gives you a blueprint. It gives you a step by step to kind of keep your mind busy, to understand on a logical level while you're embodying and while you're in the practice of your body and coming into your body. So educate is the second one. Embody is probably the hardest step because when we begin to embody this, it's like we're constantly like brushing up against our edges, right? When you start to expand out of a container that's been holding you for so long, it feels sticky and it feels weird. So if you don't have that regulate piece in there, if you don't have the understanding, it's hard to expand, it's hard to embody, and it's hard to grow past that. But we have to be in the practice. It is like practicing what you preach, right? I think about this all the time too, especially in coaching and in my business. I ask myself often, like, where am I not embodying what I'm speaking to, right? Like, where am I not fully stepping into what I teach, right? Because how can you expect anybody to learn from you if you're not embodying it yourself? So this is a question I'm always asking myself, like, how can I do better? How can I embody more? Like, what are the things that I'm teaching that I'm not doing? And then it's really being in a practice of doing those things. Because again, like I can't teach something that I'm not doing myself. And then the last one is radiate. And by this, I just mean that when we are regulated, when we are learning and growing and embodying all these things, like we're going to hit a certain frequency. And once we hit that frequency of the things that we're trying to call in, that we're working on, when we're emotionally regulated, when we practice non-attachment, we're going to be like a beacon. We're going to be radiating for the things that we're calling in, the things that are coming to us. And so I truly believe in like this process and this framework to help us manifest, to help us grow, to help us evolve. But again, that foundation is in the body. That foundation is in the nervous system. So whatever that looks like for you, like I said, I habit stack and I have so much during my day that regulates me. And I still find myself being and I don't think that like the triggers, because when you think about how many years you have repeated the same story, you're still going to be triggered by certain things, right? Like one of my biggest narratives is that people try and control me. This was my story for so much of my life. People try and control me. So when anybody like now tells me what to do internally, I'm like, I'm so triggered. But I have to like breathe, calm down, be like, I control me. Right. So we have those triggers in the moment. We have those things. The key is not reacting and then choosing to regulate and then taking action from what we've learned, from what we're embodying, so that we can radiate and call in new experiences, right? And again, the thing is you can't do it wrong. You really can't do it wrong, because like Saturn teaches us in 7-year cycles, what you don't learn is going to keep coming back up, right? If you've failed the test, if you've failed the test, I don't know that I like that terminology, but you get what I'm saying. Like if you are in a certain relation, if you keep playing out a relationship dynamic, you're going to be given new opportunities to move through it. It's just the way of life, right? So join Attune. Join Attune. We start July 13th. So that is Monday, July 13th. Again, it's a Telegram group. There's going to be 7 audio drops, 7 somatic practices, and 1 live call to really understand the transits of July, to ask your questions and to be in the space. So join us. The link is down below. I hope this resonated. If you did feel like it resonated, share with a friend, rate, review, subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. I am traveling next week. I'm going to Colorado. So talk about like being in nature. It's like my annual, although I will say I love being in nature, but I'm terrified of wildlife. So I really love to just like hang out on the patio and just like be in nature and journal and be in my spiritual practice. I always feel like so connected when I'm out there. So I will be doing that next week. There will be a podcast episode because I'm going to edit it this week and get it out. But I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Next week, we have our new moon in Cancer. So there will be an episode on Sunday. These little transit episodes that you guys are loving. So there's going to be a bonus episode on Sunday for the transits of the week. And we're going to talk about the new moon because this one's going to be emotional. So this episode, if you hear this episode before the new moon, setting some of these practices in place, using some of these tips, tools, techniques, could really help you move through the new moon next week. So I thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you soon.